So, all right. Hello once again to all of our listeners out there in points unknown throughout the Cotton Belt. From California to the Carolinas, we are back from our hibernation over the winter months and the early spring months here at the Cotton Companion. We have taken a few months hiatus during what is often actually the busiest time of year here at Cotton Grower Magazine. Over the winter, we are tied up with events and special issues and just a lot of added editorial work that we do given the nature of our industry over those months. So while you guys were taking a break from the field, we were taking a break from the Cotton Companion studio right here in Memphis, Tennessee. But as I say, we have returned triumphantly. I don't know. We'll see.
Time will tell.
Yes. I am Beck Barnes, the publisher and editor here at Cotton Grower Magazine, and that was Mr. Jim Stepman, our senior editor at the magazine. Jim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Beck. And one thing I do want to mention, we did spend quite a bit of time at industry meetings this winter, and we're able to get face-to-face with a lot of our readers and things like that. So we certainly appreciate all of the good comments and feedback that we received from you, from not only from the magazine, but also from this podcast.
Absolutely, yeah. If y'all see us out there, pull us aside. Let us know if you're listening to this, then inherently you are a podcast listener. So let us know how you feel about the pod in any way you can. Anyhow, we'll get to that note as we're doing some cleanup at the end of the episode. Let's carry on as scheduled. Today is Wednesday, May the 17th. As I think I mentioned a second ago, we are coinciding our return with your return to the cab of the planter. Hopefully, we're hoping you guys have gotten some good rain in this off season, getting some good rain at the right time here during planting, and just overall are having good weather at this crucial time of year. We want that to coincide with this recent uptick in cotton prices. I was actually talking to a room full of my co-workers and peers at Meister Media Worldwide at our corporate office. We went up to Cleveland, Ohio to our corporate office last week, and I kind of in passing made a comment that it was really springtime in the cotton market, and I'm pretty sure the other editors who cover various other row crops and vegetables and fruits thought, well, it's springtime for us, springtime for everybody. But I had to clarify it's springtime in the sense that good prices, or rather better prices, have returned to our market after a long absence. So we are as excited about that as we know that you all are, and we figured what better way to kick off the 2017 run of Cotton Companion podcasts, our hashtag Plant17 podcast today, than by taking a good hard look at those cotton prices and at the trends in this market. And we're going to do that with our old friend Dr. O.A. Cleveland, who will join us a little later in the show via an interview that we are conducting with him. So before that, though, we're going to have Jim lead us in a discussion of the latest news items that are impacting our cotton industry, as he always does. If you're familiar with the Cotton Companion, Jim leads our hard news segment, is kind of what we call it in the office here. And today he's going to be touching on USDA Crop Progress Report, the May WASDE highlights, a cottonseed policy update, which we know y'all will be interested in, and he's got a little bit for us on the Bayer recent headline that we saw where Bayer is set to sell its Liberty brands in the cotton industry, or rather in the cotton market. So he's got a couple other items of interest. It's really a full show that we have for you today. As you can see, as my favorite George Costanza might say, we are back, baby. So you will want to stick around with us because you don't want to miss any of that good stuff. For now, we are going to take a quick break. You just hang around and we will be right back.
Welcome back to the Cotton Companion. As Beck said, we're going to spend a few minutes talking about some of the newsier items in the industry right now, kind of bring some perspective and bring people up to date on where we stand as an industry at this point. We're going to start with the USDA Crop Progress Report. this would be the report that was issued Monday the 15th for the week ending on Sunday, May 14th. At that point, out of the 15 states that USDA recognizes as primary cotton-producing states, 33% of the U.S. crop was in the ground. That was a 12% jump over the previous week, which again sort of reflects on the weather issues that have kind of calmed down a little bit and allowed more people into the field. When you step back and look at a state-by-state basis, we have 2 states that already have more than 80% of their crop in the ground. That would be Arizona and Louisiana, where we've had a substantial acreage increase. And there are 5 states that have more than half of their crop already planted. That would be Alabama, Arkansas, California, Mississippi, and South Carolina. Obviously, we're into a period right now where we've got good weather. There's adequate soil moisture in most regions of the cotton belt. And really the high plains area of Texas, where the vast majority of cotton acres reside, those folks are just now kind of kicking into gear over the last few days to a week. So really, when we come back to the next Cotton Companion, we expect to see a healthy jump in planting numbers as we move into these next weekly reports. Just a quick note: we do realize that the folks down in South Texas and the coastal plains of Texas and over into the Brazos Valley have been planted for some time now. And those crops appear to be doing very, very well. In fact, many of them are moving into the square stage of maturity right now. So preliminary indications or reports out of Texas are thumbs up right now. Looking at the May World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates, affectionately known as the WASDE report. I'm just going to brush across a couple of key points here, because I'm sure when O.A. Cleveland joins us that he'll have a whole lot more detail to provide about some of these numbers. But first, let's look at what's left for this 2016-17 marketing year. USDA basically has said they reduced cotton production just slightly from last month, but the export forecast, and exports have really been driving this market for the last several months. They've increased the export forecast to 14.5 million bales. And that's sort of a reflection of the higher than anticipated export sales to date. Obviously, then that means our ending stocks that are sitting there right now are also lowered accordingly. For the world production in this same marketing year, 16-17, that's production is down from last month, while consumption is going up. And those are 2 numbers that we really like to see. If production's down, we want to see consumption going up, because it basically lowers the ending stocks sitting in the world market and keeps prices kind of boosted into some of the areas that they are right now. USDA also took a look moving ahead, projecting into the 2017-18. For U.S. cotton crop, they're expecting 19.2 million bales. Production rising 12%, and that's going to be based on 12.2 million planted acres, as they indicated earlier this spring in their prospective plantings report, combined with below average abandonment due to relatively favorable moisture and average yields. The other good signs in this: domestic mill use projected higher at 3.4 million bales. Exports may drop a little bit to 14 million, and I honestly think that's probably more of a precautionary number at this point. But again, they're anticipating supplies from some other competing countries to grow, with ending stocks for the next marketing year projected at 5 million bales. As you move into the world projections for that same time period, they're showing a decline in stocks of 2.4 million bales as as consumption exceeds production for the 3rd straight season. And that's really good news for the market at this point. That means even though production is rising, consumption's projected to rise 2.3%, basically because they look at it as the growing world economy is helping to drive mill use higher around the world. So those are some things we've been missing in this market for the last several years. So it's really good to finally be able to say with some confidence that we seem to be moving out of that. And just based on just a quick look at where we are today, and I checked prices just before we came in to our little makeshift studio here. Today, the cotton price on the cotton number 2 futures was sitting at 81.84 cents for the July 17 crop, and 74.98 cents for December cotton. So the numbers are still high, hanging in there. They're still climbing higher, and we'll see how the market plays out as production continues. See if we have any weather concerns that pop up, and anything else that may impact the market. But right now, everything seems to be looking really, really good.
What is that? The July numbers at contracts at, what is it, 81 cents? I feel like 2 or 3 years ago, people think that the editors, the people who cover the beat, so our beat is cotton, must be like experts on everything that there is to say about that specific beat. So anyhow,
please don't burst the bubble.
Yeah, right. So a few years ago, I would talk to people and they'd say, well, what is a good cotton price? Because that is something that's a little ambiguous that people who don't live in the farm sphere, they don't really understand, and that number is a moving target. But I would always reference this study that I had heard about that I think somebody in Extension, maybe in the Mid-South, had done, where they pegged a break-even price right at 81 cents. Do you remember?
That's been several years.
Yeah, and so I would always say, well, break-even's about 81 cents, and then, of course, these past 2 years, we've been looking at prices in the 50 and 60 cent range. Mm-hmm. And people go, well, didn't you tell me that below 81 cents they were just, going broke? And I'm having to go, well, yeah, kind of. We're just figuring out how resilient all of these growers who have been able to hang on over the past 2 years have been. So
I think that break-even price kind of dropped just a little bit over the last couple of years into the 70s.
Yeah. But
at the same time, part of that is growers have been able to out-yield the market conditions, and with higher yields and higher quality, which is what the markets are looking for, then certainly there have been some price advantages there. But to say everything has been sunshine and roses for the last few years would certainly be a true stretch.
Right. No, that's a good point. The yields have certainly been a saving grace over this period. So anyhow, it's just good to see that those prices edging higher. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. That's okay. That's actually a very good segue into the next subject. Since we're talking about on-farm finances and financial stress and things that seem to be fairly universal throughout the cotton market, regardless of where you are setting or where your geography may be, we had another snag in the campaign to get cottonseed designated as an other oilseed under the current Farm Bill. Obviously, the cotton industry has been working hard and diligently through the efforts of the National Cotton Council and with a number of other agricultural organizations who are supporting this move to put a plan in place to get cotton designated as another oilseed, which would allow coverage under the current Farm Bill. Unfortunately, a move to include that cottonseed policy in the fiscal year 2017 Omnibus Appropriations Bill, which basically is the bill that Congress just passed to fund the government through the end of September, failed. And primarily because we had some last-minute political maneuvering from a few folks in the dairy industry who are also struggling. And we want to make our point clear that we know cotton's not the only commodity sitting out there that's in hard times. But basically, because of some last-minute maneuvering, both cotton and dairy were left on the outside looking in following the passage of that legislation. That did not sit very well with House Ag Committee Chairman Michael Conaway from Texas. I've been in several meetings with him and several press meetings earlier this year. He is adamant that there will be a cottonseed policy, one way or the other, going into this. And his comments after this vote were, he certainly didn't mince any words. It's basically saying, to its credit, the entire cotton industry came together on a plan to fix what is broken with respect to the safety net for cotton farmers. It was thoroughly vetted, strongly supported and entirely paid for, which basically meant no new dollars to make this program work. He goes on to say the dairy industry has also been working hard to restore the safety net for the nation's dairy farmers. And unfortunately, 2 dairy state senators, who I will not name, insisted on an $800 million plan that was cobbled together last minute. It was unvetted and totally unpaid for. And when they didn't get their way, they blocked critical relief for both cotton and dairy farmers. His comments was, he was describing things as he's extremely disappointed in the recklessness and heartlessness of such an approach. These people should not be playing games with the livelihoods of those who work hard to put food on our tables and clothes on our back. And I want to reassure the nation's farmers and ranchers that I and many of my colleagues are fully committed to correcting this wrong and seeing them through their current economic challenges. Obviously, the National Cotton Council was very disappointed because they put a lot of time and effort into this to put it in a position to be included without having to go back and open the Farm Bill, and that was their goal all along. Opening the Farm Bill is a real challenge and a real danger, not only for cotton but also from some other commodities at this point. So basically, what's next? National Cotton Council's already turned its attention to working with our new Ag Secretary, Sonny Perdue, to see what kind of administrative options that USDA might have to help cotton producers. As you recall, this was the similar approach we had with former Secretary Vilsack, who felt like he did not have the legal authority to make that designation. We're hoping, and the industry is certainly hoping, that Secretary Perdue will look at it differently and move ahead. Actually, yesterday I was looking at some news items this morning. Apparently yesterday was Secretary Perdue's first meeting with the ag committees, and Chairman Conaway was very upfront with him about wanting to work together to make this happen for both dairy and certainly for cotton. So we'll see what happens over the next few months. And
I think they had meetings today. Not to butt in, but I'm actually looking at. I follow the Cotton Council on Twitter, and I saw them tweeting about this earlier today. I think new Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue was having an ag committee meeting today, and you had people like Trent Kelly, and then another, where was he? I want to make sure I get, but Rep Rick Crawford from
Rick
over
Crawford
there
from Arkansas,
in Arkansas,
right. Mm-hmm.
who were mentioning this cottonseed discussion in front of Perdue again today. So it's something that's today being Wednesday, what is the date? The 17th, May 17th. So it's something that is very much still being discussed right now. I'm sure that you all may have gathered as much from what Jim was just saying, but I think that there's a little bit of renewed optimism around this topic with the new Ag Secretary. And, you got people like Trent Kelly specifically from down there in Mississippi. I should know that as a Mississippian. I had to look that up. He's from Mississippi's 1st Congressional District, who are kind of going to bat at the moment. So this cottonseed issue is very much alive. Don't give up hope just yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are a lot of people working on behalf of the industry at this point. Quite honestly, it seems like there are more people working on behalf of the industry than there certainly have been over the last 3 to 4 years.
Sure.
Recognized that there was a true weakness in the 2014 Farm Bill, and they're hoping to rectify that before they start building the 2018 Farm Bill, which Chairman Conaway has said they will deliver on time and on budget by next September. But basically, they also recognize that if they can't get this done now, they're going to be going into a Farm Bill discussion and debate where there will be less dollars and just as many hands reaching into the pot for funding as there are right now. So keep your fingers crossed. Contact your state representatives and your state senators, and continue to ask for their support in making this happen. Moving on, and just a couple of quick items here. We spent a lot of time over the past year looking at some of these proposed mergers in the industry. Just a quick update as best we can come up with at this point, since none of them are completely final, but they're all looking like some are moving into the home stretch. at this point. First will be ChemChina and Syngenta. Looks like it has received most of the necessary approvals it needs, not only from the European Union, but also from some of the U.S. regulatory agencies. So we anticipate that one will be settled pretty quickly. Dow and DuPont are still moving ahead. They also have gotten approval from the European Union. Saw today where they got approval from Brazil for their merger. So again, that one's moving ahead. There have been some, DuPont announced that they are divesting some of their insecticide, in fact, most of their insecticide lines, which FMC has moved in to purchase. And looking at the other last merger that's sitting out there with Bayer Monsanto, the news came down last week that Bayer has agreed to sell the Liberty herbicide and the Liberty Link branded seeds businesses to help gain approval of its acquisition of Monsanto. I don't think any of this comes as a huge surprise in the market, but this is really kind of verifying what most of us have suspected for a while. They're basically saying the sale of the two brands will account for the bulk of asset sales worth about $2.5 billion necessary to satisfy competition regulators, and that's regulators from around the world. At this point, this requirement came out of South Africa, but it's also expected to be required by the United States and the European Union as this merger moves ahead. So look for, if this deal goes through, look for a new home or a new owner in place for Liberty and the Liberty Link seeds business in the market. Also looking ahead, now that we're in production season, Transform, the insecticide out of Dow AgroSciences, has gotten Section 18 emergency use exemptions for this season in select states for two different crops, two different pests. Section 18 for plant bug management in cotton in Alabama, Arkansas, Arizona, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Tennessee, and Texas. And if you're also a sorghum grower, there's a Section 18 exemption for control of sugarcane aphid in Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Colorado, Georgia, Kansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, and Virginia. So it's good to keep Transform in the product mix as we move into this season, knowing how valuable it is against plant bugs and certainly the sugarcane aphid. And the last item I wanted to touch on, something we may have talked about before, but now that production season is here, plants and crops are going in the ground, and in some cases fields are already being treated. Wanted to one last mention on the Flag the Technology program that helps identify crop fields sensitive to certain herbicides. This is a program that came out of Arkansas several years ago, and it allows farmers to identify the fields that are safe for application and those that have to be avoided to prevent unintentional damage to either the producer's field or certainly to adjacent crops. And this involves planting colored flags at entry points on the fields. Each flag color represents a different type of technology and helps make applicators aware which products are appropriate and safe to use on a specific field. Now, just a quick recap on the flag colors and the uses, because this program has really gained traction, certainly coming out of Arkansas. Texas A&M AgriLife has embraced this program. University of Tennessee has embraced it. I think Mississippi State has. Most of the cotton producing areas have this program or a variation on this program in place. But excuse me, if you see a white flag, that means the technology is tolerant to glyphosate. If you see a green flag, it's tolerant to glufosinate or Liberty. A yellow flag basically is for Clearfield rice, sunflowers, wheat, and canola, which are tolerant to the, let me see if I can pronounce this correct, imidazolinone herbicide, and I probably messed that up, sorry. A teal-colored flag is tolerant for 2,4-D or the Enlist technologies. If there are white stripes on that flag, it indicates tolerance to glyphosate. And if you're using the Enlist product or the Enlist technology this year, you should also add a green flag to denote tolerance to liberty. If you have a black and white checkered flag, it does not mean necessarily the end of a NASCAR race. It just means that the technology in the field is tolerant to dicamba and glyphosate, so this would basically be the XtendFlex technology. And should you see a red flag, it means extreme caution required. That means there are some conventional crops with no traits in the area. And these could be things such as vegetables, vineyards, apiaries, organic production, areas that you certainly do not want herbicide to move off your field and into. If you want a little bit more explanation on it, let me suggest that you go to utcrops.com on their news blog, and Dr. Larry Steckel, who's the University of Tennessee Extension weed specialist, has done a great job in about a 2.5-minute video explaining the Flag the Technology program and how those flags should be displayed and what they mean.
Yep, yeah, we have been big proponents of that. As you were listing off all the smart guys who are embracing that program, us too at Cotton Grower have also kind of been supportive of that. Just seems to me like it's good common sense, that program. So kudos to, I believe it's University of Arkansas folks who came up with it, right?
Absolutely. Bob Scott deserves a lot of credit on that.
Yeah. Is that it?
That's it.
All right. I should know. I should have that in my notes. But we had an extensive news section today, so good job, Jim. I guess when you have somewhere around 5 months.
5 months.
Yeah.
Not that anything's happened in that time period.
Of news to catch up on. It might run a little long. So, Jim, we appreciate you as always. We are going to take a quick music break, music divider, and on the flip side of that, we will be bringing you an interview with the world-renowned Dr. O.A. Cleveland, Professor Emeritus of Ag Economics there at Mississippi State University. I'm sure he won't be reminding this Ole Miss boy about the Egg Bowl this year or anything like that. I can only hope. So stick with us. We will be right back to talk about this cotton market.
Okay, so I am joined right now by a longtime friend of Cotton Grower Magazine. He is a professor emeritus of economics or ag economics. He can correct me if I'm wrong. There at Mississippi State University, I am with Dr. O.A. Cleveland. Dr. Cleveland, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Beck.
Well, man, I appreciate you joining us. This is, you may not know, but we have been on a little bit of a sabbatical here at the Cotton Companion podcast, and we are getting back going as our guys are getting in the cab of the planter and getting this 2017 season going. And over the time that we have been out, man, this cotton market's been moving, and it's been good. It's good for me and you, OA, for sure, and good for our listeners who are cotton producers. And I know here recently it's really been rocketing up over the past week. You wrote a great column for us at cottongrower.com earlier this week. It was titled "Market is Holding, but Lock-in Prices Now." Tell us what you were analyzing there in your market analysis in your most recent column.
Well, thank you so very much, and I will. And the punchline is not lock them in now, though I would begin that way and say lock in some prices now for the 2017 crop. I think that's imperative. But more the punchline for this week, probably more so, is the fact that the market has just rocketed higher. We've talked at length for several months about these on-call sales that the mills have, and that they had to resolve that, and only the way they can resolve that is by buying futures. And as the months have progressed, they've been able to roll forward, but now there's only one old crop month left, and that's July, and they can't roll any further. And all of a sudden, we came up last week, and they had approximately 4.6 million bales of cotton that had to be fixed in the futures market within the next 30 trading days, and now that's down to roughly about 27 trading days. So time is ticking, and they were just running out of time when they had this huge volume of cotton that had to be fixed. And as a consequence, they caught themselves in a squeeze of their own making. The specs just basically wouldn't let them out. So the market had to move higher and higher in order for the mills to buy the cotton to get out of the market. And that's what they got caught in that trap. The specs held tight for a couple of days and drove this market up to 86, 87 cents before they finally relented. We've certainly come down now. We would not be surprised to see the market go back up a time or two. I don't think we've gotten rid of the volatility. We've taken care of a lot of the mill sales, but the on-call sales. But when you're talking 4.6 million bales, you're not going to take care of that in just 4 or 5 trading days. So the old crop of July has still got a lot of upside potential. No, I would suspect we've done the high without question, period. But we're still going to flutter around up there and see what we can do. As I say, the specs were caught there and just would not let the mills out, and as a consequence, the trade. The mills were trading through the trade, so the trade just had to basically gang up, so to speak, and try to pump it to the specs just a little bit in order to force the specs to let the mills out. They did some of that, and if we're where we are now, the market's come down. As we went up and saw this, we also began to get extremely concerned, and we talked about it, that we get prices up above 80 cents, we start to lose textile business. We lose mill business to export to polyester. We lose exports here in the U.S. market. And whereas we were essentially sold out, didn't have just a little bit more cotton we could sell in the export market. This jump up to 82 cents, 83 cents, and on up to 85 and 86 cents, that just absolutely turned the spigot completely off, totally tight, and cutting off exports. We're beginning to get some export cancellations now, and what that will do is it's going to mean that we're not going to sell out of cotton this year. Cotton that we would have sold this year, some of it, maybe as much as 500,000, maybe even 750,000 bales, hopefully not, but possibly, will come back and sit on the 2017 crop, and that's just cotton that we're going to have to disappear as we try to sell the 2017 new crop. So net, it's bad for the cotton industry because it tends to, with those very few growers, and bless their hearts, they were able to hold on and get 84, 85 cents. But those are just a mere sprinkle with respect to the 2017 crop that needs to be fixed, and it's going to hang on the 17 crop. But at the same time, the 17 crop is not getting ready. The December is not getting ready to disappear on us. There's a lot of pressure to show that the December side, that the 2017 crop can get in the ground, can come up, we can get a good stand, and we can push this crop forward. It's a little late in some places due to the moisture, and that's underlining and underpinning the support, the solid support. We've got around 72 cents, maybe as low as 71 cents. But right now, we're blessed and being able to see this December trade 74, 75 cents. And as long as these mill on-call sales exist for probably another 20 days or so, we'll continue to get some pretty good support for the December. But December has to that price swing has got to gingerly move down, assuming we get this crop in the ground. We're looking for a big crop, maybe even larger than what USDA is pegging it. So at the same time, we've got a lot of time to go before we can show that this crop is going to be there. So the market really wants to pay attention and not really disappear the 2017 prices we've gotten until it shows that we can get some big crop in.
I hear you. You just touched on, I was going to ask you, I know it's not your job or area of expertise to make an acreage prediction, but I was wondering if you thought we were going to be inching up over that 12.2 million acres that USDA projected. I mean, this kind of late run of good prices, do you think that's encouraging some more planting?
It probably is. There's the conventional wisdom, particularly because we're so late planting in some areas. Not so late, but based on typical normal years, it's late. So it could draw some more acreage in. The conventional wisdom, instead of the 12.2 that USDA is reporting, could be as high as 12.5 million acres. That's getting a little bit on the high side. We do need the cotton. As we look to the export numbers down the road, exports probably in 2017-18 probably won't match what we've had this year, but at the same time, they will be very robust. We will probably build U.S. stocks this year, but world stocks will continue to come down. So the U.S. is going to need cotton, and I know you asked more about the plantings for this time, but or here just what's going in the ground now, and we'll be going in for another month or so. But I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit on you. As we look down to 2018, 2019, and 2020, the U.S. is going to need at least another 1 million acres planted over and above where we are now. There are some that suggest that we may need 1.5 million, 1,750,000 more acres. What we're seeing now is that we're going to build exports. The Chinese, as they disappear their national reserve, and they're doing that at a very solid rate. They've been very true to their word about disappearing that, and they've done it just exactly as they said they would. So come next year, 12 months from today, 12 months, 15 months from today, we're going to need a lot of cotton ready to hit the export market. So consequently, as we get into 18, 19, and 20, we're going to need another 1.5 million bales of, another 1.5 million acres planted to cotton. So the cotton future down the road is extremely bright, I would say.
That's good. Again, that's great news if you're the editor of Cotton Grower Magazine.
That's right.
The more acres, the better. I heard you a minute ago, OA, and you were mentioning the specs. To me, and I just read a story in the Wall Street Journal just yesterday about how the speculators were kind of playing in cotton and maybe behind a lot of this kind of leap higher that we've seen here the past few days. Today's Wednesday, May 17th. I mentioned this to you earlier. I have nightmare flashbacks to 2008 when we had all this speculative action in the market, and it was so disruptive to a lot of our traders, particularly here in Memphis. A lot of old, respected names were really turned upside down during that time period. Do I have any cause for concern this go-round that we will see, that harsh of a movement here?
Beck, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I would say that 2010 fits this mold, too, where we had just excessive speculation in the market as we got toward the end of the old crop months. But, no, I don't think it compares in that regard from the standpoint of that speculation started in the March, or at least it started to show itself in the March and in the May contracts, whereas while speculation has been there all along in these, both in the March and the May that have expired, it's not been that excessive with respect to how it's affected the market. And so this time it's just affecting it on the July contract. That's why I do say I hold out reservations in saying the high is in, but the high is very close to being in. This end of last week, first part of this week, it was just evident that the specs were not going to sell anything. The specs now have made ample profits, excellent profits, and it makes sense that they start taking some of those profits out of the market rather than let them ride just to see what they can do. There's about 350,000 bales of cotton that can be delivered against the contract, but you look at cotton available around the world, delivered to Asia. You get U.S. cotton delivered to Asia. You can buy it today for cheaper than you can get it on the board. So it makes sense that what little trade is going on, it's less than the futures price. So consequently, that should tell us that hopefully it tells us that futures may have some more volatility, but it does not have that kind of squeeze now after the fact that we had in 2008, 2010. I would come back and say what we saw on Monday, probably prior to Monday, the highest trade we'd ever seen futures and options was around, I'm using round numbers now, around 100,000 contracts in a single day. This past Monday, we traded in round numbers approximately 150,000 contracts. So it didn't break the record. It totally shattered the record of trading. And as I think we've probably gotten the worst of it out of the way, I think the trade now is grouped and they're paired in case some other attack comes of that nature. They were caught off guard as well as the mills, but had to know some of it was coming, but because we've just preached these mill on-call sales were so imbalanced. So I think that's done. I don't think we have that great worry. Still have to be a little worried about your issue, but not great worry.
Very good, Oway. Man, you are a thorough answerer, and I appreciate that, my man. And I
Well,
want to
pay
thank
is
you.
good. Thank you.
I want to thank you for joining us today. As always, we appreciate you, Dr. Oway Cleveland, Professor Emeritus of Economics there at Mississippi State University. You have yourself a good afternoon, sir.
Well, Beck, give a gift of cotton today, and thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Oway.
Bye-bye.
Well, all right. That will just about do it for this, the 26th installment, I believe, of the Cotton Companion podcast. We are doing a new subscription drive, as you may have noticed on one of our platforms, digital, print, or here on the Cotton Companion podcast. We are tying a piece of that to the podcast platform. If you're listening to this, you may have already signed up. You may have been asked to give us your email address, for example, in order to reach the archived podcast. So if you've done that, we thank you. Other ways you can help: if you haven't subscribed to our e-newsletter or to our magazine in a while, please visit cottongrower.com. Do me a favor, scroll to the bottom of the homepage. You'll see a link to subscribe at the bottom. And even if you are still receiving those things, when you resubscribe, you help us keep a more refreshed, better subscription list. It's kind of the lifeblood of our marketing or our business plan here at Cotton Grower Magazine. So that's my sales pitch. That's as much as I can do. We thank you sincerely for joining us today. If you like what you're hearing, by all means, tell your farmer buddies about this podcast, the Cotton Companion podcast. We plan on being with you this production season, much more regimented, much more regularly. I'm talking to myself here. I am going to do a better job. Our goal is to come at you every 2 weeks. We will record on Wednesdays, and we'll have the podcast to you there within a day or so. So you can look for us at the same spot, the same time, every 2 weeks, twice monthly. So again, you like what you're hearing? The best way you can reach the podcast, there are 3 easy ways to reach the podcast. The first is simply to go to cottongrower.com, go to the search bar and type in Cotton Companion. That ought to take you to a landing page that has all 26 now of our archived episodes of this very podcast. The second is by subscribing to our channel on iTunes. For those of you who are familiar with iTunes, you have a smartphone, an iPhone, you can go ahead and subscribe to our channel that way. If you do that, leave us a rating. Let us know what you think about the podcast. That would be, you'd be doing us a real favor by going that route. The third, and a great way to be sure you are receiving each installment of the Cotton Companion, is to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter. Jim here works hard to pack that thing with all of the relevant news of the day, and it hits your mailbox like clockwork. Your email inbox, I should say, each Tuesday morning, and occasionally on Thursday mornings during production season as well. You can do that by, as I said earlier, going to cottongrower.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, and you will find a link there to subscribe to our e-newsletter. It is easy peasy, I promise. Also, make sure you're following us on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter, and on Facebook you can find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine. We hope that you are enjoying our latest issue, which is at this point
Our May-June issue.
May-June issue. That's right, we had a combined issue for May-June.
That should be hitting mailboxes here within the next week or so.
There you go. Keep an eye out for it. Yeah, we hope that you will enjoy it. This podcast is produced by Mr. Mark Antonelli. He works at the mothership, Meister Media Worldwide, in beautiful Willoughby, Ohio. My name is Beck Barnes, and I will be back with you in 2 weeks for the next episode of the Cotton Companion podcast. For now, on behalf of my own Cotton Companion, Jim Stedman, we wish you and your cotton farming operation all the best.